everyone. This is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. And I'm so glad you're here with me today. So, if you guys are already a fan of the show and I've been on here, you will recognize Jenny. And Jenny has been here before, and I wanted to have her come back on because she has a lot of insight and a lot of beautiful gems that she dropped on our first episode. So, if you didn't see that, make sure you go and see that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, like, what are you waiting for? Like, go ahead and click that button. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, all that amazing stuff because we are trying to grow this community. Okay. So Jenny is a certified coach and she runs her own coaching practice called River Life Coaching. She is also a qualified lawyer in the UK, in Singapore, and Malaysia. And she is passionate about coaching introverted individuals to be more visible in their own terms and to empower them to live fully and joyfully. And if you saw the first video, you'll see that we talked a lot about that. But I asked Jenny to come back on because she pointed out a lot of great things. And one of the things that I loved was about the inner critic. So Jenny, thank you for coming back. I know it's late where you are and I appreciate you. How are you?
Yeah. Thanks, Nina, for having me. Yes, it is late. And yes, we were joking before the recording that I promise I won't fall asleep. But yeah, it's good to be back. And yes, our
Yes.
first episode, we discussed at length, what it is to be introverted as opposed to being an extrovert. No one is saying that you should be in one camp or another. It's just to understand the differences and the uniqueness in our personalities. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because a lot of people right now, at least I think people are getting grounded again. But in the beginning, it was getting very hostile. If you didn't act a certain way or say a certain way or do certain things, and I realized that we are starting to. At least from what I'm seeing, we're starting to turn a curve a little bit where people are starting to think about, wait a minute, maybe this person is just introverted. Maybe this person is just like extremely extroverted because there's also extremes to each side,
Yes.
right? And so that was really helpful that we were able to talk about that last time, and also about the fact that you're an introvert yourself and that you coach introverted people as well. And I thought that was really interesting because I remember thinking, I don't think I've had a coach on that just works with with introvert. I don't know, I know that's not who you just work with,
Mm,
but that you are introverted and that's what you do. So I thought that was really, really great. And
yeah.
so
Thanks.
while we were talking about our inner critics. And I love this topic. It's something that I really love to talk about. I do a live every week and I always talk about the mindset to
Mm.
win, and how, and a lot of it is about that criticism from within, right? So I wanted to talk to you about that. Like, what is an inner critic, right? And like maybe some of the tools we can use to pull ourselves out of that. So why don't we start with that inner critic? What is that for you? What do you mean when you say that?
So, Adina, I also trained with Dr. Shazad Shamin. He wrote this New York Times bestseller book called Positive Intelligence. So, I'm not saying that his is the way to go to understand the inner judge. He calls
Right.
the voices in our head the judge. But I thought it was a very good explanation. Everyone has their own take on the voices in our head. The reality is we do have a lot of inner chatter and it gets quite noisy. So in his book, he wrote about the fact that all of us, no one's excluded, has the master judge. So the master saboteur who's the judge. So the judge is there and the judge shows up in many ways. So for example, Nina, if you're preparing for a meeting, so if your judge is strong and domineering, your judge will come out and say, Nina, you didn't stay up long enough last night to prepare for the
Right.
meeting, so your notes are not good enough. Who do you think you're gonna kid when you come to this
Right.
meeting? People
Right.
are gonna find out you only prepared 3 hours for it. So you have this
Oh,
voice
yeah.
going on, right? And
Mhm.
then the judge in his book is accompanied by accomplice saboteur. So he has a website called positiveintelligence.com. On the website there's a free assessment that you can do to find out your saboteur. So for me, my top accomplice saboteur is a controller, a stickler, and hyper vigilant. So you can imagine. So a controller needs everything to be, I am under the illusion that everything's within my control. A
Right.
stickler is actually perfectionism. So can you imagine your judge says you didn't prepare long enough for the meeting? Then that would fuel my stickler to come in and say, oh, actually, yeah, definitely. Look at the typo errors here, and the font size isn't right. So that adds on, right? And the controller is like, oh, I need to control the environment in the meeting. I need to be there to ensure that the laptop works and the projector works and all that. And hyper vigilant is really thinking that what could go wrong will go wrong. So can you imagine
Right.
you've got the
Right.
judge and these three people all talking in your head? How do you expect the presentation to go well? So that's just
Right.
an illustration from my personal saboteurs. Yeah,
You know what's interesting though? As you were saying, you were explaining that, I was thinking, but she's a lawyer. That fits her perfectly.
exactly.
And that's funny, right? Because it's like you went into the field that fit. You know what I'm saying? Your inner voice, or who or what drives you, right?
Yes, yes.
And that's very interesting. And I think that, I mean, do you feel like that fit you perfectly? Do you
Oh
feel like those
yes,
yeah, they
yes.
fit you perfectly?
Yes,
And
and,
did
and
you
and
feel
and
like,
on the
yeah,
personal side as well, because I'm a
yeah,
mom, so you can imagine I'm hyper vigilant. And can you imagine a controlling mom? So I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm letting go a lot. So
right,
actually, you see, you can have all these traits, and again, it's like in moderation, right? So when my
yeah,
saboteurs showed up, and if they are really hijacking me, that's them in their extreme. So
hmm, hmm,
actually, there are ways to tone down the saboteurs or even to not let them control and overwhelm you. So it's okay to be, vigilant, because
right,
I analyze the worst case scenarios and I come up with solutions. But the difference here is when your saboteurs overwhelm you, you are filled with stress and anxiety.
right,
And yes, you may eventually be successful in the meeting. And come on, let's just imagine all those saboteurs creating havoc in my head. I still do a good presentation. Can you imagine
right,
how tired I will be after that? Because my whole
right,
body will be so tense with anxiety. And I'm an introvert, so you can imagine how much
yeah.
energy
And you keep it,
has
yeah,
left me, right? However,
right,
if you recognize that these are the saboteurs, this is not who you are, you have prepared well for your presentation, then you're able to do some exercises to let go of these saboteurs. It's so
right.
much
Wow,
easier. You still
yeah,
present a good meeting. No one, if you're very good, no one will know externally what's happening. But you can imagine if my saboteurs hijack me, I'll be so tired because I'm fighting with them. However, if I
right,
don't let the saboteurs
right,
control me, it'll be so much easier, be calmer, and I come out of it feeling like, wow, that was easy. So there
right.
is a difference internally.
Do you think that, if you come away, if you like, you say to yourself, I'm still going to do the presentation anyway, and I'm going to do a good job, and you finish and you did a good job, do you feel like, that settles down the saboteurs in your life, or do you think that that is something you're always going to have to try to overcome?
It's always gonna it's always with you.
Yeah,
So even Dr. Shamin said that for him, his judge comes out really strong, really harsh, and even now, having written the book, having done all this research, his judge still comes up. But the
right,
difference here, what he said was last time the judge would take hold of him for days on end. Right now, maybe he'll recover after an hour. And I noticed it for myself as well. I noticed the controlling trait come out, or the hypervigilant trait. So I may struggle with it, but if I reflect, it won't last as long as before.
right,
So
right.
I am able to let go and move towards a calmer way of thinking.
That's really great. And the reason I asked that was to get that kind of answer, because I think people are way too hard on themselves. They think that they should already be over this, or they should already have this done or whatever. And that's not how this works.
No.
Saboteurs, as the way that you're explaining it, almost sound like they're like innate personality traits too, right? That, but then the voices come up to try to, criticize what you're doing because you're not doing it to that saboteur, right? I used to work with a coach, and he used to call those gremlins, right?
Mm,
So I had a gremlin, his name was Henry. And what that was is that every time I was criticizing myself, or I felt bad about something I did or didn't do, I'd be like, "Oh, Henry's here. Hi, Henry." You know what I'm saying? He was like like a self-sabotage type of thing, right? And so they called it gremlins, that come and try to, and and the way he explained it, I'm wondering if this is going to be something you agree with. The way he explained it too was that sometimes the gremlins, and I don't know if the judges or saboteurs are the
Mm.
same, would come and do that because they're trying to protect you,
Mm.
because it's who it's who you normally are, or how or how you work around something, and so it pops up to try to protect you from the uncomfort of doing something. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like the judges and stuff
It
come up to
does.
help
It
you?
does.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
the judge comes up to say that, are you sure you want to do this, Jenny?
yeah.
Okay, let's just say, for example, this podcast recording, the judge is coming. Are you sure you want to do this? You're not in your top form. It's so late. What if
Right.
you run out of things to talk about with Nina? If these are
Right.
coming up. So it's under the pretense actually that
Mm,
my judge is trying to protect me. And can you imagine
right.
if I let these thoughts run?
Yeah,
We're not going to have a good conversation right now. So
yeah.
it's just a lie to think that, oh, I need to listen to these voices in my head because they are keeping me safe. However, if
Right.
you think about,
Right.
most times they end up making you feel more worried, more stressed, more anxious, and even angry at times when things
Hmm,
don't go your
hmm.
way. However, if you are able to let it go, um, yeah, things will be just so much easier and smoother. And even if it's not easy, you're able to center to why you're doing this in the first place. Why are we having this conversation? Because we both feel strongly that a lot of people are just kind of sucked in by the voices in their heads and not really doing anything.
Mm. It almost helps a little bit, Jenny, to give it a name. It almost
Yes.
helps to give it a name, right? It helps to give it gremlin or saboteur judge, because then you can almost look at it as an external thing where you can deal with it, right? A lot of times, because we are so hard on ourselves normally, right? I was going to say women, but you know what, men are hard on themselves too. They just maybe don't express it as much as
Yes.
women
Yes.
may.
They keep it
um
inside.
they keep it inside, right? And so I think calling it a judge, a saboteur, a gremlin, whatever that is, almost gives you a little more control,
Mm.
right? Because at least for me, I'm a very visual person. So I'm like visualizing it like externally, and how now I can do something with this externally. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Do you feel that way too? Do you feel like
Yes.
it helps to give
So,
it a
so
name?
if you know, like I identified my saboteurs, right? That's why if you know your as saboteurs, so imagine they're like your wanted criminals. So every time they show, like if you call them gremlins, if the gremlins pop up, you recognize them, and the
Yeah.
moment you recognize them, you can consciously make a choice whether you want to
Mm,
follow what they're saying, or
mm,
choose another way. So it's like how Shazad explains it is like putting your hand over a hot stove. So when the judge and the saboteurs come out, that's when you know your hand is over the hot stove. But how long do you want to put your hand over that stove?
oh,
No,
that's
right?
good.
It's as
Wow.
as fast as you can, you remove it. But a lot of times we put our hand there, and then we we let it burn, a slow burn, and we're like, oh, this is painful, this is stressful, why am I so anxious? We don't take it away. And
Yeah.
actually, the simple tips that we can do is to be present. I know this is such a cliche term. They're like, okay, Nina, you're probably thinking, well, what do you mean by being present? We're present here, right? But these voices keep us from being present. So
Wow.
if you want to be present, you just leverage on the five senses. And a simple exercise that I like doing is actually rubbing both the palms of my hands together and being very intentional, feeling the ridges of my fingertips. I know I'm talking now, so I'm not fully concentrating on it, but when
Yeah.
I do it, just a few seconds or so,
Yeah.
I notice that I calm down. You must really focus on the sense of touch and really
Yeah.
do it. So this is something that's helpful. And of course, deep breathing is also helpful.
Yeah.
It's just that, like you said, a lot of us are hard. So even like if I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, I'm not coming down, not coming down, right? Then that's your judge is coming up again. So ignore that. Just really focus on one sense, touch,
Yeah.
or if it's
Yeah.
the sense of sight, look at something really nice and colorful and just focus on it. You don't have to analyze why is this color this way. Just enjoy it. And if it's a
Mhm.
sense of sound, just listen to the sound that's nearest to you. Could be the sound of your own breath, or it could be something further away. And you just do this 10, 15 seconds, play around with it, and then come back to what you need to do, whether it's write that presentation or have that difficult conversation conversation, you'll notice that you yourself have calmed down and you've slowed down a bit, and you're no
Yeah.
longer it's no longer that noisy. I'm not saying that it will go away completely, but at least that's a good first start to
Yeah.
basically, you just want to short circuit the saboteurs. You don't want to be hijacked by them. So by doing this, you are short circuiting the automatic response and
Mhm.
intentionally moving to a more calmer, sage like response.
Yeah, I agree. I talk about that too. I talk about anchoring too. So like for instance, this could be an anchor for you, right?
Mm,
That you know that when you do this, you need to calm down, right? So it could always be like, and you could do that anywhere, right? You could do that
mm,
in a restaurant, you could do that wherever you are. You can, if that was an anchor for you, like I have some of my clients will like to pull their earlobe, will calm them down. That like they already associated that with
yes.
calm. I agree with that. I also agree with like your senses. I love that. I agree with that. I always say, look around the room, see if you can find something blue, see if you can find something red, because if you focus on something, it is what will take over. Right.
Yes.
But so if you like focus on anything else, you are now leaving that. You can't focus on 20 things at once. People think that they can, but they really aren't. Right. You're just making
Women
your
think we
this.
can because
Oh
we
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
natural multitaskers, right? So we
Yeah,
think that yes, I can do 20 things at the same time and do them well.
and do them well, right? And meanwhile, like, nah, you're not doing that well. It's like you have 50 tabs open on your screen. You're not really doing 50 tabs, I promise you. But I think it's this thing of, needing to be perfect, meaning needing to complete something or hurry up. We have this thing now. I don't know if it's because of the 7 seconds you get to watch a video on TikTok or whatever it is that's happening with our brains, but it seems like everything has to be fast.
Yes.
And
Otherwise, you
life,
become obsolete, right? I mean, that's the
yeah,
trend now. If you're not
yeah,
fast enough, you will disappear. I mean, even in social media feeds,
yeah,
right? You need to be posting very often, not just once a
yeah,
day, several times a day, if you really want to keep
yeah.
yourself in the like the top five. How do you keep up? And you're just
Right.
gonna
I
run out of
don't
energy.
have time.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have time, but you know why? Because I don't think humanity is supposed to be that way. You know what I mean? I don't think I just don't think it's supposed to be that way. We're not supposed to be posting 20 times a day. Who does that? You have to like that has to be like literally your career, right? Doing
Mm.
that. But it and that too, Jenny, will also develop and I wanted to ask you about that. Develop these inner critics, these judges. Because when you don't post it 20 times, oh no.
Yes,
You
your
know what
judge
I'm
will
saying?
say,
The
yeah,
judge will say, "How
you're not gonna
dare
be,
you?"
yes, you're not
Yeah,
gonna be the top five anymore, you know.
right. Right. And so I wanted to ask you, do you think that the gremlins, the inner critics, the saboteurs, do you think that's something that is in your personality trait as you grow up, or do you think that's something we pick up along the way as we grow?
I think it's a mixture of both. So, I remember that I used to worry a lot even when I was young,
Mm,
because I guess I didn't want to trouble my parents so much. So I took a lot on myself to handle things. And I'm just a kid, right? So no
right.
one asked me to do that. So it could be a personality thing that I have. I mean, my
Mhm,
parents never
mhm,
said that, Jenny, you have to take care of everything. But somehow I have that, I have that inborn responsibility in me. So, like you said,
mm,
it could be something that life experiences, or something that we picked up along the way, or something happened to us. Like, for example, if when you were young, another girl told you, "Oh, Nina, I don't like your hair. I think you're so old school. You're not trendy." So that
mhm.
hurt. Maybe you wanted to be part of that cool girls group.
Right.
That hurt, right? So maybe the sense of like, I don't feel I belong to a group. I know that was during your childhood, but then it could go on when you go to college and university and work. The sense of like, I need to fit in. So it could be
Mhm,
just one experience because you were so young then, it hurt you and it stuck. However, if you recall back to any time, if you can, I had trouble doing that, to any time before you turn 7, that is the time when it's your true beautiful essence. We all have that. I mean, I know some people have painful childhood even before 7.
mhm,
I'm not saying that for those people there will be much more. You do need to see a counselor to get what's your true essence. But every child at that young age is beautiful. So try and recall, what were you like at that young age? You were very carefree, and you were vibrant, confident. And it's only when adults, whether it's parents, teachers, well-meaning aunts who say something to you, and
Yeah.
after that, your personality
So
just
true.
got, not say repressed, but you just feel that you have to fit into a certain mold.
So
And
true.
somehow, in adulthood, we know that we don't have to fit in that mold, but we've been in that mold for so long. Again, it takes so much to break out of it and to
Hmm.
rediscover who we truly are. So that's why I do coach a lot of people to say that, do you remember how you were when you're young? So there was this woman, she recalled that she was a talented dancer and singer when she was
Oh
young.
wow.
And now at the workplace, she finds that, yes, she's still confident externally, but again, the saboteurs and the critics inside her, right? It's so tiring each day to portray that confidence. Whereas when I asked her to reflect how she was when she was a child dancing and singing on stage, she didn't need to put up an act. She didn't need to get confident. She just went on stage and she loved doing what she did because she was young. She didn't care about what people think. So actually, when we're adult, we tend to overthink too much. We tend to doubt ourselves even more. And slowly, I asked her, "Is that young girl still you right now? Do you still see her?" And then she
Wow.
paused and then she said, "Yes, she is, but I haven't brought her out for a very long time."
No, that's powerful. Yeah. I'm sure that helped her a lot too in her journey because then
We
you
have to
start to.
reconnect to who we
Yeah, I was
were.
just gonna
Yeah.
say you have to reconnect. Yeah,
Yes.
you have to reconnect to that and really realize that we are really quite amazing humans, right? I mean, like we really are. We do a lot of amazing things. We can think of a lot of things. We love well. Like human beings are beautiful, and if we can just reconnect and discover that essence that you're talking about, that's beautiful, right? Because I think even as a traumatic and trauma when you were young. That happened to me. I had a lot of trauma when I was young, but I also remember like really fiercely loving, like really fiercely wanting to have fun, like really fiercely wanting to play
Mm.
outside. So even with the trauma, right? So I think, and you're quick to forgive when you're a child too. So there's a lot that happens there. So that's really great that you do that with your clients, and take them back to that place. I bet you that's life transforming because sometimes we forget about that person, you know?
Yes, and
Yeah.
then we seem to think that we must behave in a certain way and act in a certain way because now I'm a professional,
Yeah.
now I'm a wife, now I'm a mom. At times just let yourself go a bit crazy and
Yeah.
reconnect with your childhood, who you were as a child, and have fun. And I'm sure your kids will love you for that as well.
Yeah. And you know what's funny, Jenny? That if we showed up like that from the beginning, nobody would know the difference. Like if she didn't show up completely like lined up professional, I'm a CEO or whatever, and I gotta act this way. If she just showed up carefree and who she was, people would have accepted her for that to begin with. You know
But I
what
guess
I'm
we
saying?
have that
Yeah.
fear that people
Yeah.
won't. So it depends on
Yeah.
the organization that we're working for, right? So
Yeah.
at times, we might feel fearful that they don't accept us. But like you said,
Yeah.
if we show up authentically and if people are open to
Yeah.
see that, hey, she's like that, but she still does a very good job. So
Yeah.
why are we being so picky on her external behavior, and
Yeah.
why are we not looking at the output, at what she's producing? Unfortunately, people pass first impressions on you. So
Yeah.
Nina, if you're interviewing a candidate who's like, properly suited up, and another candidate who's wearing really casual clothes, and your organization is very white collar, button up,
Yeah.
you tend to be more inclined
Yeah.
towards the person who fits the organization culture,
That's
and
absolutely
you miss out
100%
the
true.
opportunity of knowing
Yeah.
the other person. Yeah.
Yeah. That's 100% true. I was just talking about that with some of my colleagues. That is 100% true. But the funny thing is, Jenny, is everybody who's in the white collar suits are also pretending.
Yes.
So they're passing judgment on each other. And meanwhile, they're all struggling with the same things. It is hilarious. But I mean, that's human nature for you.
Yes.
That's you are
And I,
absolutely
and I,
100%
and I
right.
think a practical tip is, if you are hiring and you find yourself being biased, if you're aware that you're like leaning towards someone, I'm not saying that you switch immediately and must hire the other person on the other side,
Right.
but at least that awareness causes
Yeah.
you to pause.
Yeah.
and think about it. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
hearing this guy because I really like him. He looks like me 20 years ago. He's like me when I'm young, so you feel that, oh, I really think he's a great fit. Suspend judgment for a while. Give the
Yeah.
other guy a chance. Hear
Suspend
what he has to
judgment.
say.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Jenny, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm not going to take you up too much of your time so you can get some sleep.
I didn't fall
Uh,
asleep, right? We still had a
you
fun
didn't fall
conversation.
asleep. But I really am glad you came back. And this was
Thank you.
really, really insightful. I truly appreciate it. So before I let you go, though, you know the drill, Jenny. I need to have people know where to reach you and how to reach you and all that so that they can work with you on all of these aspects as well. So give us
Okay,
your
sure.
handles, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So you can find me on my website at www.riverlifecoaching.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook under the
Awesome.
company name River Life Coaching, or you can find me under Jenny Toh. I see my name on the banner here, so your TOH is my surname. I don't post 20 times a day. I don't even post daily, but I'm there. I'm there.
I love that. Guys, thank you so much, Jenny, for being here. And guys, for those of you who are listening, seriously, we all have the gremlins, we all have the inner critics, we all have it. I mean, you are not exempt. We are all going through it. So just know that there is tools, techniques, and tips and stuff like that. Working with a coach sometimes is even the best way to do it so that you can get through those challenges that you're going through, because you don't need to get stuck there. You really, really don't. And a lot of the things that we tell ourselves when we're listening to that inner critic is not true, right? Sometimes we just
Yes.
inflate it. It's not really true. So I want you to, reach out to Jenny if you need to, work with someone on this kind of coaching, or if you're an introvert and really want to connect with somebody at that level, Jenny's the perfect person for you. So make sure that you go ahead and follow her, River Life Coaching. I'll put all of her information below. And if you didn't see the first one, make sure you go back and watch that one as well. Thank you guys for being here. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
This broadcast is brought to you by Winject Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.